Hello everyone, I welcome you to this Niv-Mizzet league and let's hop right into the Decktech. Here's a short list of the lands we're playing. It's a lot of fetch lands so we can smooth our mana, and it contains shock lands and 2 cycle lands and all the basics, of course. The ramp and mana fixing card consists out of the Abandoned Growth, the 4 Utopia Sprawls, 1 Bird and an Oath of Nissa. Niv has to play a lot of removal, so we play Abrupt Decay, Trophy, Helix, K-Command, Kaya's Guile, Dreadbore, and as a board wipe we play Verdict. The Planeswalker threats are ran in 6 to smooth out the mana. Teferi is pretty good against control, Ashiok hoses graveyard decks and fetch lands, and Kaya is really good at removing small things and even an Uru out of the graveyard. The 3 creature win cons in the deck are the namesake card Niv-Mizzet and Omnath, which is a great new addition that gives you so much value and life gain and stuff, and Ura, of course, which needs no introduction at all. Then there's Bring to Light, which is a tutor for almost any card we have except the Planeswalkers. Now for the new stuff. Expansion Explosion is just maybe a counter spell or another Kaya's Guile, and maybe sometimes you even Explosion and draw like 7 cards. And here come the biggest newcomer of the deck. It's Golos together with Field of the Dead. It's just so insane. You can ramp, you can get out of Blood Moon, and if you get a Field of the Dead, you can just crush control decks with it. And activating Golos is just so great. And here's the newest addition to the deck, Sisay. She seems to be really strong. It's a 3 mana 2/2, which is not great obviously, but she gets bigger with every other legendary permanent, which we have a lot, and then she can just tutor for bigger ones every time. So if you have an Omnath out, you can tutor for a Niv, which is amazing, and you can instant speed tutor an Ashiok if some opponent tries to fetch. It's great. And onto the sideboard, here we have Land Hate, Creature Hate, Mill Hate, and Combo and Control Hate. So let's hop into the league, shall we? We won the die roll. Good. We keep a hand with a Bird of Paradise and a Dreadbore as a removal spell and even a Bring to Light, so we have a pretty good hand. Sadly, our opponent cracks a Bloodstained Mire, gets a Sacred Foundry and Lightning Bolts our bird. Then we pass the turn again after playing a land. Opponent plays Kroxa. We discard the mountain because we have so many lands in hand already. We fetch an Abzan Triumph. Then we play a Prismatic Vista, fetch an island and get Yorion into our hand. Next turn, opponent Thought Seizes us, gets rid of our Bring to Light, but we are better lucky than good, so we just top deck Niv-Mizzet and say, play a land and say go again. Opponent has some troubles casting the Skelemental, but he finally does it and attacks us. We discard Yorion and Dreadbore because we have an Niv-Mizzet and we can cast it pretty easily next turn. So now we would have fetched the Stomping Ground. We would have needed to shock ourselves, but we luckily top deck Utopia Sprawl, so we can put it on another forest named Red, and with that we can cast Niv-Mizzet. We found Kaya's Guile, Uro, and Supreme Verdict, which is pretty good. Then he casts another Skelemental, attacks, we obviously block. Then he bolts on Niv-Mizzet, so the damage gets through and we still have to discard 2 cards. Then I am having some trouble casting Kaya's Guile. But when I finally do it, at some point, then entwining Kaya's Guile feels always great. We get rid of everything opponent has in his yard as well, and play a land and say go. Opponent does nothing at all. And then in the next turn we play an Uro out of the graveyard. And we top deck K-Command, which is pretty good. We kept the mana open for that, swinging with the Spirit. Opponent takes the damage. Opponent Thought Seizing us. In response, we K-Command, make him discard and get Niv-Mizzet in our hand. Obviously, Niv-Mizzet would have been discarded anyway, but K-Command so we at least get rid of one of his cards of his hand. He discards a push and concedes. For game 2 I boarded out Teferi, Ego and a Bring to Light and brought in Push and Thoughtseize. Game 2 we have a bad 7 into a bad 6 into a pretty shaky 5, but we keep anyway because you don't want to go lower against a discard deck. We shock in a Stomping Ground and cast a Sprawl on it with naming green. So we can cast Red and 6 easier, and we might have the chance to Abundant Growth better. We play the Field of the Dead tapped after he played the Stoneforge Mystic and just Abundant Growth on it and say go. There was no point in casting Red and 6. Opponent does nothing at all. He's missing his third land drop and we missing it as well. That is the reason that I'm not trophying the Beta Skull right now, which he put in on end step. He then attacks me, I DK it, so I'm not taking that much damage. And again, I'm not trophying the Beta Skull here because he's stuck on lands as well, so we kinda keep it even. The next turn he does nothing but Inquisitioning my Renin 6 away. We draw a Prismatic Vista, which is pretty good, but with Renin 6 out would be better. We get your entire hand. He hits his third land drop and casts Pyromancer and discards Crocs and Lingering Souls, and then he hits me with the Stoneforge Mystic. We get a fifth land, just cast Yorion. We flicker our Sprawl and Abundant Growth to make our mana better, that we have 5 color after that. We name blue and put it on the Stomping Ground and put the Abundant Growth on Field of the Dead, so make it a rainbow land. He casts another Stoneforge Mystic and finds an Embercleave. He attacks with a Seasoned Pyromancer. I'm gonna block. He activates Stoneforge Mystic, brings in Embercleave, and it attaches to Pyromancer, and so they both trade. We go to our turn. We verdict the complete board. He casts a Croxa, and we discard the Helix. And he plays another land tapped. We found another land. We try to Kaya's Guile, which, as I said, I'm not good at tapping, obviously. So we play the Vista, get a Swarm, cast Kaya's Guile, now make him sack and get rid of the Croxa completely and cast a Sisay. Opponent untaps. He casts another Croxa from hand, so we discard our last card. Then he plays Remorseful Cleric and Annihil Spellbomb. That's a lot of graveyard hate if you ask me. We draw Abundant Growth and cast it. We redraw a land. We activate Sisay to get Oath of Nissa, which will find us a Niv-Mizzet. Then we attack with Sisay, but we don't play the land because if he has any discard spell, then we want to keep the Niv-Mizzet if it's possible. He casts Sword of Feast and Famine, and I'm proud that I made the right decision, but it probably doesn't matter because he has basically a kill next turn. We need to discard the land. He plays another Stoneforge Mystic and then casts another Pyromancer, and he discards the Shadow Spear he just got with the Stoneforge Mystic. We cast Niv more out of desperation than anything, because if he equips the Embercleave to the Remorseful Cleric, there's no way we will survive this anyway. It's a good hit with Niv nonetheless, but as I said, we are dead if opponent sees it. We just swing in with Sisay and he blocks with an Elemental. The next turn he Inquisitions. For some reason he has lethal on board. I don't know why he does it, but I'm gonna let him do it. He equips Embercleave, fetches again, then unearths Croxa, makes me discard again. Then he swings in with a Remorseful Cleric. I don't block, I cannot block. He hits me once, floats mana, and I have to discard. Then he uses the mana to cycle even a land, and I'm dead. No changes to the sideboard. So game 3, ladies and gentlemen. We keep a hand with a turn 1 bird, turn 2 Ashiok, sign me up all the way. He Thoughtseizes Omnath. Okay, that's interesting. We draw Utopia Sprawl, which is pretty good. So we use the Utopia Sprawl to put it on the stomping ground, naming black, so we cast Ashiok, targeting ourselves to find an Uro. He casts a Kroxa, we target ourselves again, still no Uro. Get Yorion into our hand, he just cracks his silent clearing for no reason and passes again. We try to find Uro again, still didn't find it, then we cast Yorion, or at least attempt to cast that, and he scoops. Losing the die roll, we mulligan a pretty slow 7, we keep a okay 6 and put Niv on the bottom. Opponent's mulligan to 5, so it probably is, yeah, it is Tron. Obviously, he plays a map and tower. We top deck Sprawl, which is perfect. Play a forest, put the Sprawl in it and name white and say go. He plays a forest and Sylvan Scrying. Okay, he found a power plant. We play a land and cast Sisay and pass the turn back. Opponent plays his found power plant and casts another Sylvan Scrying, getting, who would have guessed it, the mine. Then he casts another Chromatic Sphere. We untap, get Oath of Nissa out of our hand, and we find a Steam Vent, so we have a turn for Bring to Light and hit with Sisay. Now we have to be scared what's in his hand. If he has any threats, we have a real problem. He cracks the sphere and casts Karn. Okay, that is okay. He gets an Ensnaring Bridge, which is really not good against us, but we are pretty happy with it. Then he follows up with a Relic of Progenitors. We untap, draw a trophy. We could have played Niv here, but it's better to get rid of his threats. So he's obviously has no threat in hand. So we just kill the Ensnaring Bridge with the trophy and kill Karn with Sisay, and then we say go. He cracks the relic to draw another card. He casts Stirrings and finds just a Karn. Huh? Okay. He casts Karn and takes our Sisay and plays another map. We shock in Steam Vents to cast Bring to Light for 5 and we get a Niv. Obviously we need a threat here, so Niv finds us pretty good cards. Renin 6, Ashiok, Uro, Expansion Explosion and Red Boar, so we have a lot of stuff we can do now. He top decked a star, I assume. He plays it, cracks it, Stirrings, and with Stirrings he finds a O-Stone. O-Stone is a problem which can blow up a lot of our board, but we have so many lands, it's fine. He plays a Worm Coil and exiles Niv. We untap and cast Uro. Hopefully we draw another land, and well, we are lucky, so we get it. We put it on our battlefield, then we cast Renin 6, we fetch with the Wooded Foothills, get another land, plus with Renin 6, get Wooded Foothills back, crack it, and then we have a Field of the Dead trigger finally. We can crack the Wooded Foothills to get another Stomping Ground, get another trigger. Man, Field of the Dead is so much fun. And we can Dreadbore the Wormcoil engine. So we can prevent Renin 6 from dying if we block and get more Field of the Dead triggers, which is pretty good. He untaps, plays a Chromatic Sphere, cracks it, and tries to crack his map, I assume. Yes, he does. He finds Ghost Quarter, uses Ghost Quarter to kill our field. So I hope he has anything, something to kill Renin 6. He plays an O-Stone and attacks Renin 6. We double block the Death Toucher so it dies. In our turn we get our field back, we decay the O-Stone, then we play Ashiok and mill our opponent, and then we get Yorion into our hand, and then we pass the turn. Opponent plays another forest and casts a big creature, no? And he cracks the map, which is obviously not working with Ashiok out. Then he uses his mana to pay, and then he pays again. And he finally manages to cast a Ballista for 4 and pings our Renin 6. In our turn, we helix the Ballista, put a Sprawl on our land, naming blue, and then we escape Uro. He puts another land into play, we get another zombie, we'll mill our opponent and say go. On an opponent's turn, he casts another sphere, he cracks the sphere, he finds a star, he cracks the star, he draws another card, and then he casts... drumroll, takes a while, he casts a Karn. Damn it. But he tapped 1 mana too much. I don't know why he did it, but I mean, it doesn't matter. He exiles Uro and passes the turn. On end step, we fetch and get another zombie. Then we untap and helix the Womb Coil so we can attack Karn, kill Karn. Then we mill him again, play another Sprawl. And then we cast Yorion to flicker the sprawls around, so we get our mana back, and we flicker Ashiok to get him back to 5 and to get the Oath of Niv-Mizzet trigger again. So we put these sprawls on the untapped forests and get an Oath of Niv-Mizzet trigger where we will get Renin 6. It's better, obviously, so we can trigger Field of the Dead again. He untaps and casts something big again, obviously, because it's Tron. And it's another Karn. Exiling Ashiok. Okay, I'll take it. Then we go to our turn. We play Renin 6, grab another fetch land for the Field of the Dead, make another zombie. We kill Karn, hit him down to 12, and then we pass the turn. He untaps and casts a Womb Coil engine, which is no problem at all anymore because we have Kaya's Guile in hand even, so it doesn't really matter. On end step, we fetch, create another zombie, and then we explosion him for 7, and we draw 7. Which is amazing, drawing 7 like that. And he scoops. For game 2, I bought out Kaya's Guile, Kaya, Lightning Helix, Abrupt Decay, Bring to Light, Teferi, and a Niv-Mizzet. And I bring in Ashiok, Unmoored Ego, Cleansing Wildfire, Magus, and Thoughtseize. We mull a 7 that is okay against most decks, but is not a good against Tron, into a 6, which has a turn 2 Wildfire, which is pretty amazing, and still a turn 3 Omna, so we keep it obviously. We play a Sprawl on red, and pass the turn again after he played a mine. He plays a star, plays a tower, and says go. We draw an island, we put Abundant Growth on an island, and then we wildfire his tower. He fetches a forest, obviously. He casts Sylvan Scrying, gets a Ghost Quarter for some reason, and Ghost Quarter's my forest, which I am totally fine with. Then I cast the top decked Ashiok and mill him. Obviously it's wrong, I should mill myself, but here we are. I play land and cast Omnath. So now we hope that I mill him again, by the way, which is totally wrong. I should mill myself and find an Uro, but that's okay. He plays the tower, so he has Tron. He cracks a star and he casts an O-Stone, which he will instantly crack. Okay, so now we cannot bring to light for 5, which is okay. So we just wildfire his Tron away again, and with the top decked Ashiok, we mill him again. He casts Scrying into an Ashiok again for some reason. We get Renin 6 plus him, get another land, then we Thoughtseize him, take the little Karn, and play an Sisei. He casts an Womb Coil. We untap, draw Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize him again, take big Karn, then we minus Ashiok again and hold up Sisei. He casts an O-Stone. He attacks with the Womb Coil. We activate Sisei. We get a Golos, which will get us a Field of the Dead. With the Field of the Dead, we will get a zombie, which will block the Womb Coil engine. And then we go into our turn and mill him again. He goes into 17 cards. We cast Omnath, then play a fetch land for another trigger, then fetch for another Omnath trigger and a field trigger, and our opponent gives up. Okay, match 3, losing the die roll. We mull to 6, 5, 4, ditching everything but 3 lands and an Omnath. Opponent is the lowest deck, so this will be annoying. He plays a land and he attacks with a Bomat Courier. We draw another land, we play a land. He plays the second land, hits us with Bomat Courier, and he casts a Skyclave. Okay, so I assume we're almost dead if we don't draw anything. We draw another land, which is pretty bad. He goes with another Bomat Courier. He attacks with Skyclave with everything. And the triggers go off. And then he bolts us. So we go down to 14. And then he hits. So we go down to 6. Then he fetch shocks again and plays a Death Shadow. So we just draw and concede. For game 2, I sided out Teferi, Unmod Ego, Ashiok, Sisei, Bring Too Late, and one Niv-Mizzet. In comes one Wildfire, Deafening Clarion, the Fatal Pushes, and the Thought Seizes. Okay, game 2, we are on the play. We have a good 7. We fetch for a forest and play a Utopia Sprawl, setting up on blue. Because we want to be able to get a Teferi turn 2 or whatever. He Thought Seizes us and discards our removal. We draw Abundant Growth and then we play a bird. He attacks us. He misses the land drop and takes off the Bomat Courier. We play Omnath, play a fetch land, gain life, gain mana. We get Yorin into our hand. Opponent goes into its turn and concedes. No changes for game 3. Okay, game 3. We have a pretty good hand, so we have discard, abundant growth, so pretty perfect mana and an Uro. And Omnath even. So he bobbles us, Thought Seizes us, takes our Thought Seize. So we play abundant growth, get our mana going. He bobbles again to see what he draws, what we draw. Then he plays another bobble, bobbles again, and says go. So he misses his land drop, we say go, he says go again. We play Misty Rainforest, then fetch an island, get our Uro out, which will draw us into an Oath of Nissa. So we play the Windswept Teeth, fetch shock, the Breeding Pool, which will play the Oath of Nissa, and then we get another Omnath. Finally, he finds his second land drop and he plays Reign of Gore, which could be a problem for us with this, but we just escape Uro, slam him, he should be not alone, play 2 lands, then we fetch 2 basics and get a Rennet 6 out. We can play him because of Oath of Nissa. He casts Night Whisper on himself and concedes. Okay, losing the die roll. This is a pretty slow hand, so we mull to 6 and we go away with Ego because we know he's playing Lurrus, so we don't want the Ego anyway. He plays a Swift Spear and attacks us. We drop our fresh drawn Misty Rainforest and say go. Our plan is to probably play Abrupt Decay or Renin 6 this. Oh, okay, he Inquisitions away, probably Renin 6, yeah. So our plan is get an Absent Triumph now, because we want double white pretty soon for the Verdict. And this is the best one probably. So with this, we can next turn, we can just fetch a basic forest and then decay one of the cards of his creatures. Yeah, we decay the Bomat Courier. He plays a third land, plays a Death Shadow and another Death Shadow. And then he attacks us with the Swift Spear. We draw an abundant growth and I use this over just Kaya Skyling because we need the 4th land drop. We need to hit it to Verdict next turn, else we just lose anyway, whatever we do. So he hits me down to 4 and gets loose into his hand, and I miss the land drop, so we just die. This time I sideboard a bit differently. I get Teferi, Ego, Ashiok and Bring to Light and Niv-Mizzet out and just push Thought Seizes and Deafening Clarion in. At least we're on the play now. This is a pretty good hand. We have a turn 2 Kaya Sky into another turn 2 Kaya Sky probably. Since he didn't reveal the Lurrus, so I didn't went for the Fetch Shock Overgrown Tomb, so I just name black with the Sprawl. He attacks me with a Bomat Courier. So I draw a Misty Rainforest. I'm gonna get a forest with that and make my mana better right now with Abundant Growth and not using Kaya Sky for now. He could cast another Swift Spear and Inquisitions away 1 Kaya Sky. Sadly we cannot play Omnath next turn, but I guess that is okay. He hits me. I draw Field of the Dead, which is okay, but we are still gonna just Kaya's Guile now and play the Plains, because if we draw any other land, we can cast Omnath. Sadly, he takes our Omnath with Thought Seizes and plays a Death Shadow, so we might have played the field, might be better, but it's just how it goes. He hits me down to 17. We draw another Omnath. We're just missing a blue or red source, so that is okay. He casts the Kroxa, we discard the explosion to it. He hits us for 2. So the clock is not pretty strong right now, so we're doing pretty good here. We draw a Niv, which is pretty good, but we can't cast it right now, so we cast Yorion, and then we flicker the Sprawl and Abundant Growth, so we get at least 4 colors now. We put the Sprawl on blue and Abundant Growth on the Field of the Dead. We block the Death Shadow. He bolts himself twice, so he goes down to 6. Then we cast an Omnath, and with it we fetch and get enough mana to cast a Niv, and our hand is pretty full. He attacks us with everything. We just block those 2 and he's dead on board, so he concedes. No changes for game 3 again. Okay, game 3. We have a pretty good hand. 2 removal spells, Omnath and Golos, so we keep obviously. He baubles us and says go. We play the Indatha tapped to not shock ourselves or anything. He bowls us in Emerald Step. Then he casts a Bowman Courier and a Swift Spear and attacks us. This is pretty good. We can kill one of those in the next turn pretty easy. He puts us down to 15. Then in our turn, we play the Forest, go Abundant Growth on the Indatha Triumph, and we play the Bird. He feeds the Swarm, the Bird, and attacks us again for 3 this time. We wanted to ramp here, but it's fine if he uses the removal on it. We go down to 12. We push the Bowman Courier because it's too much value for him. Plays the Stomping Ground tapped and go. He plays a Scourge and attacks us. And puts us down to 11. On our turn, we just DK the Scourge just to be safe and play a land. Then he plays a land and it hits us again. Then he taps for 3 mana. I think he just wants to take a Lurrus in his hand, but since he didn't reveal it at the start, I'm suspecting Blood Moon or Ashiok. He just says go. We fetch Basic Island to play around, as said, Blood Moon. Then we cast our Omnath and an Overgrown Tomb tapped, gain 4 life. He fetch Shocks again. He plays a Death Shadow and another Death Shadow and says go. We helix 1 Death Shadow, get Field out and get Yorion onto our hand. He plays another Death Shadow and says go again. We get Golos out, get another fetch land, get a trigger. Then we play a fetch land, gain 5 mana, get another trigger from Omnath. Then we Kaya's Guile, Atwine it. He passes back without doing anything. We play a land, fetch with it, get a lot of more zombies, get more mana. Then we play Yorion, Omnath, and he concedes. We win the die roll, keep a Kaya turn 2 on Uro, it doesn't matter, so it's pretty good. Fetch for a Temple Garden and name blue on it. With a Sprawl, he plays a bird. Oh, that's perfect. Just play a Kaya. Then we exile the bird, say go, he draws and concedes. We didn't see much of the deck, but we assume it's the creature combo deck. So we bought our 2 Teferis, 1 Omnath, 1 Bring to Light, 1 K-Command and 1 Niv-Mizzet. And bring in Unmoored Ego, Fatal Push, Thoughtseize and Deafening Clarion. We keep a bit slow and greedy hand. In hindsight, I should have mulliganed that, of course. I was just happy so I could kill a bird, but then he plays a goose. So we play a land and just say go. He plays a Geist and attacks us. Then we fetch a Ketria Triumph and we bolt the bird, you could say. He casts a Young Wolf and an Ethervial. It attacks us, we top deck Teferi, we bounce the Ethervial to set him back a bit, but he just Eldritch Evolutions the Geist away, he gets Yawgmoth, and then he kills our Teferi, hits us in the face for 3, and then he starts drawing cards with Yawgmoth. We have no way of killing anything of him next turn, so we're pretty screwed. We just ran in 6 minus the young wolf, but his engine is just too strong. So he plays a lot of creatures, then he courts for a Blood Artist, and he combos us. Since now we know what he's up to, we can board accordingly, getting out 3 Teferis, 1 Uro, 1 Bring to Light, 1 Omnath, 1 Niv-Mizzet, and 1 Expansion Explosion. And then we bought in Ego, the 2 pushes, 2 Thoughtseizes, the Clarion, the Ashiok, and the 1 Magus of the Moon. We keep a pretty good 7 with removal and discard. We decide to fetch Shock over Contomb first for Thoughtseize. We see his hand is his only ramp and a Yawgmoth, so we take it. He plays his ramp spell, then we ramp ourselves and play Catria Triumph tapped. Then he goes full on ramp mode and he goes Young Wolf, and another bird, so it's only 1 card in hand. We untap and then we K-command one of his birds and make him discard. His last card was another Yawgmoth, so we're pretty lucky we did it that way. And then he starts the beatdown and we're just waiting here to draw any good card. So we just get Yorion into our hand, which should be a good blocker. He casts a Blood Artist, which is very scary, and hits us down to 11. So we are dead to a lot of stuff here. We cast a Yorion and hope that we get to untap again. We flicker all our enchantments to draw a card and set up our mana a bit better. And we draw a Dreadball, which is pretty good. So we just block, go down to 10, we kill one of his wolves like that. And from now here, it's sadly a bit scuffed, as you'll see. I killed the Blood Artist with a DK, and then I just hold up mana and I blocked everything he attacked me with. And as you see, I draw a lot of removal, but nothing I can actually get ahead in the game. And he drew just all of those undying creatures and tried to hit me. And this guy went back and forth a little bit. But then I drew an Omnath, and that basically ended the game. Because the Omnath drew me into an unmoored Ego, which I did cast on him. And then I named Yawgmoth. So he had no win con anymore, and I had an Omnath and a Yorion on board, and that was just too much for him to handle. So then he conceded to that. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed and maybe even learned a bit about Niv-Mizzet from this video. See you next time.